Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Well, this is part 2 of our trip to Door County, Wisconsin. And this is kind of calling this hiking the Niagara Escarpment. And when I say Niagara Escarpment, I'm sure people immediately think of Niagara Falls. Well, that's the same cliff as the formation that makes up the Door Peninsula in Wisconsin. So that escarpment actually runs east and west where Niagara Falls is, and then it turns to the north and it runs up through Lake Huron, the Bruce Peninsula, Manitoulin Island, and then down over the top of Lake Michigan and down and into Wisconsin. And it forms pretty much the Door Peninsula. So we went to a state park called Peninsula State Park. It's actually on a small sub-peninsula of the Door Peninsula on the Green Bay side to take a hike. And we hiked the Eagle Trail. And I got to tell you, probably one of the more difficult hikes I've ever done in the Midwestern United States. You start up at a parking lot on the top of the escarpment, and so you're about 150 feet above Green Bay. That's what, 60 meters or so? My math is okay. And then you wind your way down a trail to the shore, and you hike along the shore. Well, it's not a simple flatland hike because there are just tons of pebbles and boulders. And if you think about it, if you think about the American Falls at Niagara Falls and all of that scree and talus at the bottom of the American Falls, you kind of get that at the bottom of the cliff in Green Bay, although not as much because you don't have a waterfall eroding it. But there are caves in the face of the escarpment, and so a lot of this limestone, which is what makes up the escarpment. In fact, the Niagara Escarpment is essentially the edge of an ancient seabed. And so there's all this limestone that was from living things like coral that lived in a sea over 400 million years ago. So we did this thing, and we hiked along this really pretty rough trail. And there were points where it wasn't even just the rocks. The northern white cedars, also called eastern white cedars, the roots are exposed, so you have to hike over that. It's actually rather fatiguing. I didn't find the up and down parts, like going down the escarpment and then having to go back up, I didn't find that really that difficult. I found that hiking along the bottom of the escarpment, and there were places where you had to actually kind of deviate up over parts of the escarpment and then back down. So pretty rough trip, and the older you get, the harder that kind of stuff is. So, but we completed it, and then went over and had lunch in the town of Ephraim, Wisconsin, which is right there. It's actually across a little bay. I think that bay is called Eagle Harbor. And from there, we could see the cliff that we hiked along across that bay. So if you do go to Peninsula State Park in Door County, one of the things that I want to mention is everybody else that we saw hiking this trail were wearing sneakers. And we were wearing hiking boots. And that's fine if you want to do that. But, you know, if you turn an ankle, that's a problem. They actually have signposts with a number, and it says rescue and a number. And so that's if you run into trouble and you need to be rescued, when you call, because you do have a cell signal there, you can tell them where you are. And I really recommend, if you're ever in the Midwest, check out Door County and check out Peninsula State Park. It's a pretty big state park as far as these things go. It even has a golf course. And Door County in general, great place. Lots of good restaurants. If you're there in the summertime, you can check out a fish boil. We didn't do that because we've done that in the past, but a fish boil is they essentially boil whitefish that was caught that day. the fishing boats go up to where Lake Michigan and Green Bay meet, and evidently that's a very good place for the fish to congregate, and they catch whitefish. And it's kind of interesting because they boil the fish in this big cauldron on a bonfire. They throw kerosene on the fire at the end to boil this thing like crazy, and it boils up, and the water comes over and it takes out a lot of the fats, but the fish is still really good. That's a fun thing to do if you're there. If this was interesting to you, hey, pop the like button. If you look down in the description, you'll find a link to buy me a coffee. And also, don't forget, I'm a photojournalist, and the nonprofit newspaper that I work for, there's a link to support them in the description. So check that out. I'm Todd Banner. I will see you next time.